So put on your yarmulke. It's time to celebrate Hanukkah. I hope I get a harmonica. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local cinema theater, which is Regal, and then we talk about it in the parking lot in Matt's incredibly hot exterior as we both sweat, hopefully, and don't pass out from exhaustion. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and yes, welcome to another episode. It is a little toasty in here. We've gotten the afternoon movie going on, and so we're in pure heat mode.
I am so sweaty already.
Yes, but that's okay. We will sacrifice our sweat for this podcast, making sure that you guys have a great experience listening to us.
Yeah, it's probably good that we don't video record these. I don't think anyone wants to see this one.
Yeah, wow. You never know, Todd. You never know. So we did see a movie called Still Here?
No, Today.
Here Today. Thank you. It's always a great start to the podcast when I forget the title of the film. Here Today is the movie we saw. It stars Billy Crystal and Tiffany Haddish in an interesting matchup of personalities. And there's some other people in it who are famous, but they're just playing themselves. And then, I don't know, did you pick up anybody else? One of the writers, the young writer, looked familiar to me, but I couldn't place his name.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on anyone else besides Sharon Stone and Kevin Kline playing Sharon Stone and Kevin Kline.
Right. And Barry Levinson playing Barry
Levinson.
Levinson,
yes.
And Bob Costas playing Bob Costas.
That's true. Good old Bob Costas.
So all of that was just one scene where Billy Crystal's character is being honored, and he's on stage with those people who play themselves. So yeah, fairly unknown cast outside of the principals, and so what's this movie about? Well, Billy Crystal's character, Charlie Burns,
yeah.
has had a career as a comedy writer and playwright and things like that. He's aging, and he's starting to he's developed some form of dementia, and so he's starting to kind of forget things. They said the name of what they thought he might have.
It was long and confusing. There was no way to remember it.
But think of any kind of dementia, think of Alzheimer's. That's sort of the symptoms, the typical symptoms of forgetting things in the short term that he portrays as his character kind of marches through the stages of having that disease. So that's him. He meets up with this woman, Emma Page, played by Tiffany. Bless you.
Thank you.
Played by Tiffany Haddish. Wow.
Sorry.
Are we all good now?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the heat.
But maybe there's some dust in here. Well, anyway, so Charlie Burns and Emma Page, they meet up in an unlikely way through some kind of charity auction or something, and but they develop a friendship when Emma Page has an allergic reaction, and Charlie ends up taking her to the hospital, and so they develop a friendship, maybe even closer than a friendship. It gets a little unclear
murky at times
what happens by the end of the movie, but so she really becomes a support to him through the movie as he's dealing with kind of reconciling with different parts of his life, telling different people about his diagnosis and reconciling with his family, and figuring out There's some wild stuff happening in the parking lot of the old movie theater here.
Yeah. Oh man. Sorry, just for everyone's there's a guy and a girl standing outside their car, and the guy was just dry humping her.
Yeah.
Like in a full on ready to go. Anyway.
Yeah. Glad they're having a good time.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Emma, the character played by Tiffany Haddish, becomes a support to Charlie Burns as he's sort of walking through the dementia, and you get to see different aspects of his life. He's still working on like a comedy sketch show similar to Saturday Night Live. And there's kind of a big scene where he forgets that it's live and kind of goes on a rant, and it's very funny and like everyone's laughing, but that's sort of how things come to a head, and we really start to see him go downhill and need more and more help, and take steps to resolve things in his life. So I think that's kind of the main points. I guess there's this other subplot about his wife who died, and you sort of learn about how that went down, like what happened, and how his kid's relationship with him changes through that, and so you get pieces of that told through him writing a book about his family, and so you get his wife is in the movie through these flashback scenes, and everything. Like the movie resolution happens at a house that they had shared on a lake in the woods. So there's the movie, kind of in bits and pieces laid out for you. Todd, what did you think of this film?
This was, I don't think it was a bad film at all. I would almost go so far to say that I enjoyed it. There's just two big things that I was like having a really hard time with. There's like one really big emotional scene at a doctor's office where I just really felt like it was like such a pivotal part of the movie, and I really felt the acting kind of fell flat in that specific scene. Like neither Billy Crystal or Tiffany Haddish could really bring that scene together, I felt. So it stuck out kind of like a sore thumb to me. But then, like, working off of that, the other big thing that I had a hard time with in this movie is Tiffany Haddish, period. Like, I didn't think for most of the movie, it feels like everyone's acting and doing a good job, and then she's just there. Like, she's just kind of thrown in. And you never really, they don't ever really flush out her character. She's an oddball. She's a singer. You're introduced to her in the most dumb way, which is, this lunch that she meets Billy Crystal, and then she goes on to order a whole bunch of seafood, and she's allergic to it and has a bad reaction. And it's like, it just played so dumb because she's talking about while she was ordering how much she loves seafood. So it just was really bad. It was a really bad introduction, and then for me it just started everything off on the wrong foot of this specific character. I was really into the movie for everything to do about Billy Crystal, his marriage, his work, his kids, how he's dealing with his dementia, how he's still trying to like work and function while not telling anyone about it. I was really engaged in that story, and honestly, most of the time that Tiffany Haddish, near the end, things kind of really came together, and I feel like her character fell into what she was supposed to be. But for most of the movie, it was just such an out there thing. Like, I really had a hard time with her character, and I had a hard time with her acting. Like, I don't think she did a really great job in this movie. Some scenes she does good that are supposed to be powerful scenes, and I think she delivered in those. But I would almost say, as a whole, if I'm rating her performance, I would rate it as not very good. That was the biggest negative to me. But like I said, I was very engaged by this movie. It's certainly sad at times. Definitely at a couple of points, I felt like I was close to rolling a tear. And yeah, it's just like one of those movie that has feel good moments, but it also hits home in different areas depending on what your experiences are. And yeah, I mean, I would support this movie. I'd say people should watch this movie. It just like I said, the movie kind of fell into its own, the last maybe half hour to 40 minutes. But like before that, it was like really struggling, specifically on Tiffany Haddish's side, to like really figure out what her character's supposed to be, or like, is she supposed to be a major character? You don't find out much about her, period. And she's one of those like stereotypical kooky girl characters. Like you could have like taken her out and then put like what's the girl's name? Zoe Deschanel or whatever, the new girl woman. Like you could have switched them out, and it's like just one of those stereotypical kooky, I'm weird just to be weird, and I love life because I'm weird. Like just one of those characters, and I just really felt like that was out of place. And so no matter how hard the rest of the movie tried to be really good and bring it, I just really always felt like that side of things was bringing it down. So maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't, I don't know. See it and then let me know. But I would support this movie. I say go see it. Like, I think it's worth a watch. It certainly wasn't a bad time. And it's got some really great feel-good moments that, I'll certainly be feeling for the rest of the day, probably. A little happiness here and there. So I think that's where I'm at. I'm a supporter. Go see it. Maybe I'm completely off base about my thoughts. Feel free to let me know in our Facebook page or our Instagram, but just be nice about it. Don't be mean. You don't need to. So, Matt,
well,
what did you think about this movie?
I'm gonna let you know how I feel about this movie, and let you know where you're wrong, Todd.
Only if you do it on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay. Wow.
I am sweating so much right now. It's bad.
That. Yeah. So, I think the first half of this movie kind of struggles its way along. The setup for everything is really up and down. There's a lot of unevenness, if you will, to the first part. But that said, I was engaged enough that when they brought it home in the last half of the movie, I thought the movie turned out really well. I really enjoyed the movie. I came much closer than you to rolling a tear, as you say. I definitely rolled some tears. And I thought it was... I'm always happy when a movie can kind of evoke that emotion from me, whether it's a happy emotion or a sad emotion, that says something good about the movie and how they've constructed it. So I would say overall the strength of the movie is the story. The strongest part of the movie is the story. The acting, yes, can be a little hit or miss. I'm not a huge fan of Tiffany Haddish, as I think I've shared. This is our third Tiffany Haddish movie.
True.
Incredibly reviewed on the blog, maybe the most of anyone.
Yeah, could be.
But I was pleasantly surprised with how her acting was in this movie. Not because it was great, but because it was so much better than sort of what we usually get from her.
Yeah.
Which in my mind has been to this point Tiffany Haddish being herself.
Right.
Because it was the same in the other two movies that we saw. She just acted the same character. We got something different in this movie that made me sort of want to say, okay, maybe Tiffany Haddish has a little more to offer to me than I thought she did. So still, the acting was not great from her, but I thought it was good enough, and it was good for her. It was good to see something different from her.
I'll certainly agree that it was better from the Friends movie and then the Bad Trip movie.
Yes.
Which I believe the other two movies we reviewed of hers.
I think you're right. So, we had a bit of an uneven movie, but I think in the end, I come out really enjoying myself. I came out with saying this is a powerful movie. Mm-hmm. This movie has a lot to say about how we handle dementia in our society.
Sure.
And how we handle, aging and kind of what are the optimals and what are the non-optimal things that can happen. I think you see both sides of that coin here. And fortunately, I think for the story, you see kind of a good resolution to how to handle someone who has dementia for those who have the abilities. I guess it shows how you handle dementia if you happen to be rich and have a lot of resources.
If you have a lot of resources, yes.
If you don't have a lot of resources, the answers are much harder, as it is for every part of life.
Sure.
If you don't have resources. So, but overall, yeah, I like this one a lot, and I would encourage anyone to go see it. I would say if you've been through dementia and you might be a little fragile in that area, like you struggle with a family member who's dealt with that or whatever, cautionary side of it. But if you are feeling fairly stable, I still think it's worth a watch, even if that has been an experience for you. So
it just might hit home a little.
Yep, for sure.
Well, how many bat mitzvahs would you give this movie? There certainly are some major Jewish tones in this movie because the family is Jewish.
Yeah,
Crystal's Jewish. There is a bat mitzvah,
right? So for Charlie's granddaughter,
Lindsay. Obviously, 5 bat mitzvahs the best because that's the most partying, and 0 bat mitzvahs the worst because no one parties.
Right. So, alluding back to your intro, mentioning Hanukkah.
Yes.
Hanukkah's not featured in this movie, but the bat mitzvah is, and so we have a Jewish theme. So I'm going to go pretty high here, I think, for this movie. I'm going to go with a 3.9 bat mitzvahs out of 5. That's based on my gut reaction and how I felt coming out of the movie, which was pretty good.
Nice.
So yeah, that's where I sit. 3.9.
Nice. I think I definitely agree with you that the movie really hits home in the end. Like, as far as it comes together. Like, everything falls into place in a sense of almost what they're striving for that they don't achieve in the first half of the movie starts to come together. And honestly, I think it was a big shift turn because almost about halfway through the movie, they seriously just drop the kookiness of Tiffany Haddish's character. They just do away with it, really. They stop really mentioning it or bringing it up or anything like that.
Yeah, it's almost like she realizes the gravity of the situation and starts acting more grave.
So, so I like I said, I did enjoy this movie. I think people should see it. I would support people seeing it. I'm going to go, my number was a 3.2. Definitely above average. I came out liking it. You just have to go through about, 40 to 45 minutes of just things not hitting right, and feeling a little awkward, but you're rewarded if you make it through that. So, obviously, I think if it started on the right pace and it was consistent through the end, then I think you got yourself a really great movie. That would have a super